think it's, they're gonna start firing it up, but me, I cross that bridge when I come to it.
Even without the imminent threat of execution, the decades of uncertainty weigh on some inmates. Charles Crawford II was convicted of a double homicide he committed at the age of 22. He's 41 now.
If they're going to do it, do it and, not just have us sitting here for 20 or 30 years.
That's the average time it takes before an inmate is executed here. In another part of the yard, 5 inmates shoot hoops on a closed cement court. One of them, Stephen Lividitis, takes a break from playing basketball to talk through the fence.
I attempted to rob a jewelry store and people ended up being killed because of my actions.
Why did you shoot him? Lividitis seems to be fighting back tears.
Because I was an evil person. No any other way to put it,
Lividitis, now 51 years old, says he's turned to religion, and if he's executed, it'll be God's will. Most of the death row inmates are kept in East Block. It's loud and sort of dark. There's no privacy. As I walk past, one guy is showering. Another sits on a toilet inside his 6x9 cell. Many just lie on their beds or sit reading, writing, or watching TV.
My name is Raymond Anthony Lewis. I'm at San Quentin State Prison on death row, where I've been since March the 13th of 1991, going on 25 years.
Lewis stands in his cell, leaning close to the bars, reinforced by metal mesh. Unlike many inmates here, Lewis admits to his crime, and he's tired of waiting to be put to death.
Just recently, within the last year, I've asked my attorneys to stop my appeal. And
why is that?
This is not living. It's just existing. There's nothing here. There's no emotions, no life.
Do you think most people here would rather be dead than be living here?
Oh yes, without a doubt. Without it. We talk about it every day. When we're out on the yard, people are just tired of it. The state is not killing nobody. Guys here are dying either from health reasons, old age, or committing suicide.
That's one thing I noticed, how old many of these inmates are. Some look so frail, it's almost hard to imagine the terrible, gruesome crimes they committed. All of them, including Lewis, waiting for an execution day that might never come.
This is the hardest part. Dying is easy.
117 condemned inmates have died since California reinstated capital punishment in 1978. Only 15 were executed. Most died of natural causes. For NPR News, I'm Scott Schaefer at San Quentin Prison.
Now that the primary battle has arrived in South Carolina, we wondered about the state's reputation for dirty politics. Here's NPR's Susan Davis, Ron Alding, Sarah McCammon, and Sam Sanders taking that on in NPR's Politics Podcast.
This place, this state, is kind of known as the part of a presidential election where things get really dirty. Like, I didn't know this was a thing, but now I know it's a thing, and why is this a thing?
I mean, it's been a thing for a really long time, right? Ron, you probably know more about this than anybody.
Yes, and before I throw any kind of aspersions on any other state, let me say I grew up in Chicago. So
Dirty Chicago.
When I die, I'd like to be buried there so I can remain active in politics, but
These are all weak guys.
South Carolina has this long-standing tradition of kind of no-holds-barred politics in which anything seems to be fair game. And in the year 2000, that included these phone calls and flyers and so on that told the voters of South Carolina that John McCain had a black child. And they had pictures and so forth. And of course, there's an adopted child in the McCain family. And the implication, of course, was something different. And this was, at the time, considered to be pretty toxic stuff. And a lot of people thought John McCain, coming out of New Hampshire with a 20-point win, would really do well in South Carolina. And instead, he tanked, and George W. Bush marched on to the nomination.
There's so much talk about negative politics, and voters don't want to hear this, but South Carolina kind of embraces its role as being a dirty politics state. Lindsey Graham, who's a senator and a former presidential contender who's now endorsed Jeb Bush, said, come ready to play if you want to compete in South Carolina, and that it's sort of a self-perpetuating phenomenon. There's a story in the Washington Post that's a good example of what's happening right now in South Carolina. That's an example of these dirty tricks. They do these automated calls under the guise of sort of trying to guess who you're going to vote for. And they interview this one woman, and she presses the button that says she's supporting Marco Rubio, and then the voice says, well, are you aware of the fact that Marco Rubio's for letting Syrians cross freely into the country?
Oh, wow. Which is not true, of course.
The push poll is being done by Remington Research, which is part